Assalamualaikum and good morning to my panelists. I am Nazira, Binti Abdul. My matrix number is B18GH0005. I am under supervision of Dr. Muhamad Rizaludin Bin Mahmud. Today, I would like to present my undergraduate project, which is application of geospatial technology for secondary school catchment science education. In this presentation, four main content will be discussed, which is introduction, literature review, methodology, and also project progress. This is the outline of introduction. Malaysia essentially experienced severe river pollution that caused by illegal dumping and toxic substances that thrown by irresponsible persons. This issue significantly occurred due to the lack of knowledge on catchment science and fundamental hydrology in early stage. This knowledge encouraged young generation to having lack of environmental hydrology awareness as they become adult. On the other hand, it cannot be denied that the deprivation of hydrology knowledge is due to the lack of existing learning material that indicate catchment science and fundamental hydrology. This existing learning material contains deprivation, especially regarding to its content, representation, and also delivery method to students. Therefore, this existing learning material seen inconvenient and unrealistic since it uses animation compared to real-world structure and rely on outside book from developed and educated countries. However, with the competency of geospatial data and technology, it will help to improve presentation of existing learning material by providing high accuracy and accessibility of data. There are two problems that can be pointed out from this research study. The first one is lack of appropriate and interactive learning material. Second, lack of knowledge on hydrology and catchment science at young age. Aim of this research study is to enhance the knowledge of youths and secondary school students toward catchment science and fundamental hydrology. The objective of this research study is to use geospatial technology in producing interactive support learning material on catchment science and hydrology for Malaysian secondary school students. The research question that can be listed out from this first objective is what kind of interactive support learning material will be produced and which geospatial data will be used in this production of interactive support learning materials. Second objective is to analyze the effectiveness of interactive support learning materials among Malaysian secondary school students. Research question that can be pointed out from this second objective is how the effectiveness of interactive support learning material can be measured, and when identify the effectiveness of interactive support learning material, is there any shortcoming that faced by teachers or learners? The study area of this research study is at Sungai Sedeli Besar River. It is essentially located at Kota Tinggi Johor and its basin size is 271 km². The length of Sungai Sedeli Besar River is 72,333.242 km. Frankly, Sungai Sedeli Besar River is being chosen because its catchment provides many sources for human, agriculture, and animal needs that can be used in interactive support learning material. Second, advanced terrain surface in Sungai Sedeli Besar River that can be used for visualization for student intelligence. Next, for the target, it essentially refers to two types of pupil, which is secondary school student in the range of 13 to 15 years old and also youths in the range of 15 to 24 years old. For data acquisition, this research is kind of satellite, for instance, shelter radar topography mapping, topography map, Landsat 8, MODIS Terra, and also Sentinel. Next, for learning material that will be produced in this research study is mini monograph. This mini monograph title is Hydrology and River Science for High Schools. Second, learning material is infographic map. This infographic map will be included in mini monograph that display the structure of Sungai Sedeli Besar River. Moreover, there will be a visualization video that represents the Sungai Sedeli Besar River by using bird viewing in art scene. For the visualization technique, instead of using ancient two-dimensional projection and perspective, this research study will be used three-dimensional perspective. As shown in the presentation slide, two-dimensional is less realistic and hard to be interpreted, especially to young generation. Meanwhile, if three-dimensional perspective is be applied, it will show real terrain surface and the interpretation is more easier. For the scope, this research study involves two types of software, which is GIS software and also computer software. For GIS software that will be used in this research study is ArcGIS and also ArcScene. While for the computer software, this research required Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Adobe Illustrator, and also Movavi Video Editor. This research study essentially developed four significant. Firstly, you are able to gain deep knowledge on catchment science and tropical hydrology. For instance, you are able to have an extensive hydrology knowledge, education, and able to state verbally what is catchment science and fundamental hydrology. Second, youths can commit good deed to river by prevent this unmanned manner outbreak. For instance, youths able to be brave to uphold the right things by report the illegal dumping to responsible organization. Next, youths able to have an early awareness about environmental hydrology as they start to know the importance of preservation, conservation and protection of water resources, catchment and also river. Last but not least, youths able to enhance their hydrology philosophy as they gain a deep learning on catchment science and fundamental hydrology through great three-dimensional visualization. This is the outline of literature review. Educate youths about catchment science and fundamental hydrology. In this section, it will be explained why youths essentially required to know hydrology education since they are young and why youths are being chosen instead of other estates. To strengthen this matter, youth significantly can be defined as transition between phases, which is phase of life and also phase of social. In Malaysia, the age of youth are categorized from 15 to 40 years old. Meanwhile, United States of America, Australia and also most of other countries categorize youth in the range between 15 to 24 years old. Youths need an early hydrology education as they act as role model for all age stages as they start to find their own identity. Therefore, youths have potential to improve productivity and economic including health, education and also safety. Therefore, early hydrology education for youth is crucial because education gives youth chances and opportunity for having a better employment once they finish study. Next, to produce more hydrologists that can manage water effectively, to cultivate level of love toward river by recognizing the exact function of river and to learn the way to sustain river for the sake of future generation, for instance preparing and throwing makbah to the river. Lackluster of catchment science and hydrology education in Malaysia. There are three main lackluster that can be listed out in this section. The first one is lack on production of learning material. This is because most of hydrology book is imported from developed and high educated countries, for instance Japan, United Kingdom and also United States of America. This outside book is not really suitable since it refers to their own river system. On the other hand, Malaysia's terrain structure mostly flat with many mountain ranges that flow the river from the source to the mouth. Next, there are lack of existing learning material that indicate the hydrology knowledge. In Malaysia, students apparently can gain knowledge of hydrology through geography subject. However, geography subject is not fully indicates river system as it also covers another part of geographical surface. Therefore, when reviewing this existing learning material that contains in geography subject, it seems like most of the explanation having an animation instead of using original picture. This animation essentially seems to be unrealistic to current 21st century learning as it not providing an attractive and interactive perspective to youth and student eyes. Next, hydrology education in Malaysia seems left behind the developed and high educated country. This is because Malaysian education still commit ancient method, for instance using physical book, that frankly old school in this 21st century learning. On the other hand, developed and high educated country already use electronic book or e-book to deliver hydrology knowledge. This e-book seem to be more realistic and practical for youth and students as it can be accessed everywhere and anytime. Advantage of new evolution of geospatial data toward hydrology. There are three advantages of using geospatial data toward hydrology. The first one is it provides high accuracy of geospatial data. For instance, topography map provide large scale that indicate more details and information to user. Landsat 8 satellite, which produce more extraction of wetland and allow better imaging in shallow water. SRTM provide highest absolute elevation accuracy that reflect the variation in topography. And lastly, Modistera that determine the volume of water vapor at atmosphere and vertical distribution of surrounding temperature. Second advantage is high source of data accessibility. Here it means that most of geospatial data can be obtained through open source data. For instance, Department of Survey and Mapping Malaysia, or also known as JUPAM, provide topography map in Peninsula, Sabah and Sarawak, and also urban map for certain locations in Malaysia. Next, United States Geological Survey, or also known as USGS, which provide Landsat and SRTM data. And lastly, Open Topography that provide topographic data and also LiDAR for United States of America, Canada, Australia, and also Brazil. Third advantage is it encourages the revolution of cartography mapping. Even traditional and modern cartography mapping having same aim, which is to present geographical of the Earth into plane surface. However, the map representation essentially increased due to expansion of geospatial data and technology. Moreover, with the computer software like ArcScene and Adobe Illustrator, it able to show the map in three-dimensional perspective. Here, users and students able to see river in real-world features compared to animation interpretation. Advantage of geospatial data toward hydrology education. Essentially, each of these advancements obtained through their own gap. The first one is visualization. Preparing material for hydrology education seems not really easy as it covers large and complex dataset. However, with the three-dimensional orthographic perspective, it will produce great visualization either from the side, front, top, and the bottom of the river model. This visualization also helps 65% of world population that categorized as visual person will gain knowledge through their sight compared to verbal explanation. Next is attraction. It's seen that most of river features present in the map or any hydrology book essentially not show its real structure. Hence, with competency of geospatial data, this attractive element can be developed, for instance, applying generalization either in small or large scale map, show the real line of river structure that smoothly and curvely designed, show qualitative and quantitative data to differentiate the main river and its tributaries, and lastly, the unfamiliar symbol that being used need to have a good explanation either in the legend or explanatory text. Lastly is social media. Due to technological era, most of youth and students play social media to stay connected with their friends. However, with this social media, it will help to increase youth and student intelligence through scrolling good deeds that related to hydrology. For instance, youth and students can use YouTube to search information and to boost their knowledge on hydrology education. Example, if they want to know the exact definition of hydrology, they can search what is hydrology and the answer will be pop up in the YouTube. Applying student-centered learning for hydrology education. This session is discussed about 4 student-centered learning techniques that essentially apply in Malaysia and other educated countries. The first one is problem-based learning. This learning is related to what students learn during class where teacher will give students a scenario or issues related to hydrology. Then, students are required to formulate and analyze the solution before share their opinion and knowledge. By applying this learning technique, students are able to gain mature, professional and also social networking skills. Second technique is case-based learning. This technique essentially having similarities to problem-based learning. However, the context of case is referred to previous, current or upcoming real-life situation with level of complexity depend on student age range. This technique requires 3 conditions, which are it must provide a high-quality cases, have supportive instructional arrangement and also competent teachers. By applying this technique, students are able to have communication and critical thinking skills. Third technique is project-based learning. This technique will encourage students to gain deep knowledge by conducting investigation based on their findings. Here, teacher will monitor the student progress while parents and community act as motivator and supporters if students need a help during their project implementation. By applying this technique, students are able to have technology, social and time management skill. Last technique is discovery learning. This technique is being one and only technique that need to be implemented individually. Students will do their own exploration on various sources to find out solutions based on some issue. This technique seems to be realistic as not all things are being delivered by teachers since the timetable is insufficient. Here, teachers need to construct scope and limitation of student research to avoid confusion. By applying this technique, students will have technology, time management, and professional skill. Pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy continue. Usually, these three phases is referred to the stage of learning phase. Started with pedagogy for young learners, then followed with andragogy for adult learners, and heutagogy for mixed and mature. In pedagogy, it indicates that young learners having lack of experience and need a height of instructor control. Meanwhile, for andragogy, adult learners start to having high maturity and autonomy based on their young experience and having low instructor control since they have choose their own path. For heutagogy, it essentially involves self-determined learning and fully independent and applied collaborative learning. On the other hand, pedagogy and andragogy having similarities, especially they need tutor during their learning phase. Pedagogy and heutagogy essentially having similarities in work mode. This is because in the young age, teacher will classify students based on their ability of work modes. Hence, in future, when they want to gain the knowledge, they will know the best method to gain all the information. Next, for andragogy and heutagogy, it essentially applies double loop learning, which they will think deeply about their own assumption and belief. All this learning phase is crucial because it helps to enhance 21st century learning that applies since 1 January 2001 and to give a new norm to hydrology education learning. Therefore, this learning phase essentially needs to be balanced. It is good to do all student learning time. However, supervision by instructor or teachers are also needed to ensure students stay in the right track. This is the outline of methodology. Research framework. This research framework shows detailed and clear phase in order to produce an interactive support learning material. It involves phase 1, data planning, phase 2, data preparation, phase 3, data implementation, and phase 4, data analysis. In phase 1, it essentially refers to undergraduate project writing in chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. It starts with problem identification and selection of study area. As mentioned before, hydrology education in Malaysia having lack of appropriate and interactive support learning materials. In order to solve this problem, initial interpretation or hypothesis need to be stated. Here, geospatial data is being chosen because it provides high accuracy and accessibility of data. Next, for interactive support learning material, three-dimensional orthographic perspective is being applied. Next is critical review. Critical review is used to find out various existing research. In phase 2, involve 4 tasks. The first task is to digitize Sungai Sedilip Besar River sub-basin catchment by using ArcGIS. Next, to update geodatabase of Sungai Sedilip Besar sub-basin catchment. This sub-basin catchment is being renamed based on nearest or nearby river. Next task is provisioning mini monograph. This mini monograph contains 5 main sections. For instance, introduction to catchment sign, importance of catchment sign, source of water in a catchment, river structure and estuary. Last task in phase 2 is provisioning visualization video using ArcScene. In phase 3, there are also 4 tasks, which is the first one is to distribute mini monograph and visualization video to rural and urban secondary school to students and teachers in Kota Tinggi or Sungai Sedilip Besar River area. After a week of mini monograph and visualization video being distributed, questionnaire will be conducted among secondary school students. This questionnaire has 13 questions which related to their knowledge on hydrology and to know the production of interactive support learning material rates. Next, to conduct student-centered learning activities. This activity will be done either in group or individual. This activity will be based on student-centered learning techniques, for instance, problem-based learning and case-based learning. Last task in phase 3 is to conduct interview session with geography teachers. This interview session is being done to know the shortcomings they face by teachers in order to deliver hydrology knowledge to their students. In phase 4, it essentially involves 3 tasks. Firstly, to evaluate student questionnaire by using pie chart. Next, student-centered learning activities that will be represented using bar chart to show the highest effectiveness of learning phase. Lastly, to do exception of teacher's interview summary. This is the Gantt chart of my research study. The blue color indicates phase 1, green color indicates phase 2. The grey color in phase 3 and phase 4 is still pending. As can be seen in the table, research proposal from chapter 1, 2 and 3 writing has been done. Meanwhile, in phase 2, the provisioning of mini monograph, there are only 30% has been done and visualization video only 20%. To be concluded, catchment science and fundamental hydrology knowledge and education essentially crucial to avoid unbanned habit to become worse. Production of interactive support learning materials will help students to having a deep knowledge in catchment science and fundamental hydrology. Your spatial data and technology deeply help to give an interactive, attractive, and realistic support learning material for hydrology education. Perhaps in the future, river pollution that occurs in Malaysia will be decreased through the approach. Before ending this presentation, I would like to share some research challenges. Firstly, lack of hardware competency to do visualization on infographic map and visualization video. Second, required more research finding on provisioning mini monograph. Lastly, if restricted movement order is being continued, phase 3 and phase 4 will essentially hard to be implemented. Therefore, some backup plan need to be done, for instance, conducting the questionnaire and interview through online platform.